Howdy folks, Brian Cusco here at Triple B, and today's guest is Mr. John Michels of Black Pearl. First, if you missed last week's episode, go back and check it out with Mr. Kabilka. That was probably one of the best interviews I've done with him yet, so make sure you go check that out if you haven't yet. But Mr. John specializes in Drymarchon. He works with other species as well, but Drymarchon in particular, black-tailed cribos, yellow-tailed cribos, eastern indigos, Texas indigos, those are his specialty, and he has got a lot of insight to offer for that reason on this species. And that's what we're going to do today. You're watching Triple B TV.
Oh man, that takes skill.
So I know the first time we did something, it was, I was running around, I think the first time I did something with you was...
I feel like it's been a couple of years, huh?
Yeah, it's been a couple of years. Well, I know for sure there was the Pasadena, it was at the Pasadena NRBC. I was doing things, I was running around saying the coolest show at the...
I've only done that once, that show was
it was on that one time.
Quiet.
Yeah, it was pretty quiet, but I definitely got one of your animals on the show at that time. I'm trying to remember if I didn't, let's do... I don't think I've ever asked you how you got into keeping.
Ask me whatever you want.
How did you get into keeping?
Yeah, listen, I mean, it was like anybody. I was playing around with snakes when I was 2 years old and all of that, and it started off catching them in the wild, and then I would take them all home, and my parents would be, supportive of all that, but they'd tell me, I'm not buying you anything, but you can keep whatever you want to keep whatever you want. So I'd put, I'd catch a bunch of gopher snakes and throw them all in one big cage, and then the males would combat and the female, and they'd breed the females, then I'd get eggs, and then I thought that was pretty cool, and I'd incubate all the eggs and all that, hatch the babies, and then I'd take the babies and the adults and release them every fall. So every spring I'd go catch them, and then every fall I'd go release them, and that was pretty cool. And then, and then once I kind of had my own money and I could, didn't live at my parents' house, it was, buying, I'd buy a few things. I'd start off with actually Honduran milk snakes. Thought it'd be pretty cool to get baby snakes, and then it was, hey, I can actually sell these for a few bucks to pay for my mice, and then I sold enough where I had more than just mouse money, and then I would use that to buy more expensive stuff. So I really bred snakes for a good 10 plus years and didn't pocket a dime. I would just spend it on other stuff, but my hard and fast rule was
straight up hobby.
I don't dip back into the well. It's if I want to spend money on snakes, it has to be with money that I made off of snakes. And so I eventually bought a pair of black-tailed cribos. Absolutely fell in love with them, and then from there I bred those the first year and sold those babies, and from there I had to have every type of indigo and cribo there was, and so that kind of morphed and led me where I am today. Breeding because I think it's cool, and playing with snakes that I like to keep, and all that kind of thing.
Well, you've done something really amazing with it, and because when anybody asks me about Drymarchon, or when I'm thinking of Drymarchon, Black Pearl is the first thing I think of. So when you talk about cribos, you're talking about that.
They're really, one of the things that I saw immediately was that nobody really did all of the Drymarchon species, and if they did, it was not very prevalent in the market. And so it was partly a business decision, but it was mostly just because I thought they were all awesome.
They are really awesome.
I mean, I didn't want to have a blacktail and not have a unicolor and a yellowtail, and then I had to have a breeding group of all of them. First, it was I needed a breeding pair of each one, and then I had to have a group of each one, and then you're producing a couple hundred baby Drymarchon a year, and it turned into a whole big thing. It's pretty cool to kind of have that niche. Not for everybody, but I like kind of being one of the few people in the room that has something that nobody else really has. So
I would say that Drymarchon is probably the most intelligent colubrid species out there. Is that fair to say? Or
yeah, I mean, people use that word a lot, and
intelligent.
It's kind of a hard word to define when you're talking about a reptile. But for me, there's a level of inquisitiveness. Their vision is good. I mean, they watch you when you're moving around in your snake room. They figure things out very quickly. They have a really intense feeding response, like a lot of snakes do. But when you get them in your hands, they immediately shut it down. And I've had, rosy boas or beauty snakes or any other kind of snake where it doesn't matter. If they feel flesh, they're going to bite it and try to eat it. But indigo snakes, they know very quickly. They figure you out and what your intentions are faster than other snakes. So if you want to call that snake intelligence, I'm into it. But they're certainly it's hard to describe until you really work with them. But they're kind of on another level as far as the way their brain works and the way they interpret their surroundings, for sure.
Awesome, man. Well, you got one here. Can we pull it out?
Yeah, sure. So I brought for you a black-tailed Cribo.
Oh, man.
This is an adult, and I produced this snake many years ago, and I actually sold him, and then reacquired him from the guy I sold him to, and he was named Max by the former owner, and Max is now one of our breeders that we use. Black-tailed Cribos are one of the kind of lesser known Drymarchon. I mean, most people know about Eastern indigo snakes, but this is basically the Central American cousin to an indigo snake. So I love these. These are among my favorite, if not my favorite Drymarchon, because you have the contrast. I love the eye markings when you get all this, really cool kind of face paint on there. And I love that you just have just the smooth creaminess on the top half, and then you've got just a jet black tail. So definitely, this is probably, when you're talking about the market and selling snakes, this is probably the second highest demand snake compared to the Eastern indigo. So
it's interesting that you make that point right there, because I've been on the fence about which I've wanted a Drymarchon species for a long time, and I haven't kept one. It's been essentially a dream snake of mine,
right.
And I've been so torn between indigo and black-tailed Cribo as far as where to go first. I am going with indigo, but this thing was fighting for the hard second,
right.
man.
Right.
So it's interesting you said that same thing.
Really, husbandry, temperament, size, it's really the same thing as an indigo snake. It's
what would you say other than the obvious color? Like, what would you say? Are there any other?
I mean, that's really kind of it. I keep all of my Drymarchon the same, and I'm sure there are some people, some breeders might see some differences in the way you keep track of this or that, but I keep them all the same. They all breed well for me. They all are very successful with me. And if anything, maybe they're a little bit more flighty on average, but you can see Max is a pretty chill snake. Yeah, I mean, there's not a whole lot of difference. So he's a big old boy.
Amazing looking snake, man.
The other interesting thing to note is that in a lot of snake species, the females get larger than the males.
But with the
Drymarchon, indigos, and Cribos, males get a little bit bigger. So not by a ton, but you wouldn't see a female this big.
Right.
Probably not anyway.
I remember, I think the first year I came here, you guys had this huge Cribo and a
part of what I try to do when I come to the shows is bring adults like this. He's here not for sale. He's here to show people that there are Drymarchon species other than Eastern indigos that are pretty cool. And so when I first started doing this a lot, I would try to bring one example of all the major 6 Drymarchon types, subspecies to the shows to show people. And baby black-tailed Cribos, they don't stand out in a crowd, but something like this will. And so it's good to be able to show people something other than an Eastern indigo, and to show them what they're going to look like as an adult.
That's true. Those head scales are just so prominent and strong. It's got that, it's almost like a King Cobra type of thing.
I hear that a lot, and kind of the lay people that are walking around the show, they'll say, I thought, how are you allowed to have a Cobra here? And they also see Cribo and they think Cobra, but it is actually kind of a thing. The body style is very similar, the movement is very similar, the structure, the color is very similar to a lot of Cobras. And I have actually sold a lot of snakes to zookeepers, and then they'll tell me, I work with Cobras at work, I love them, but I can't own them at home. I want to buy one of your Cribos, because it's the closest they're going to get that's not venomous.
Makes sense. Sweet, 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 sweet animal, John.
Thank you.
I appreciate you taking a minute to come over and talk to us, man. Really
Not
do.
a problem.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me. It's good times.
Awesome.
I hope you enjoyed that interview with John. Link in the description. You can find his website and ways to contact him if you have interest in that species as well. Definitely a good guy to go to for that. Next week, we're going to be sitting down with some of our friends of the North, the Canadians, KB Reptiles, Carrie and Barrows. Very awesome people. And we're going to sit down, have a little chat, and well, maybe we'll be standing. I don't remember. Either way, until then, you've been watching Triple B TV. Y'all take care.
So,
I'm alive. You cannot hold me down.
well, you are fired.
I know. I'm upright. That's what counts.
This guy did a little too much last night. Ended up not, he got a free room and didn't even have to help out of the booth at all.
Oh, wow. Look at him go.
Look at him go. Mr. Jolly, what about if this was way over here?
Yeah, he's no dummy. Like you say, they're
Right.
intelligent. He knows what you're doing. I'm not going to play your game.
I stick my tongue out when I want to.
I'm not a circus monkey. You know, Eastern Indigos are renowned for having,
I'm sorry.
you know, being very docile and super handleable. But as you can see, Max is as well.
You get some really good shots over there? Were you able to get nice focus on like tongue shots and stuff like that? Yeah? Cool.
So if you turn the mic on, a lot. Helps a lot. Everything looking good back there? Yeah? No? Yeah? Who cares? Whatever.